Working as a pizza delivery boy, you run into a lot of strange things, but this one might be an extreme example. I was 21 and working a late Friday night shift at John's Pizza. I was closing with my boss. Around 9 p.m., about an hour before closing, my next delivery was to a town nearby. The drive wasn't long, maybe 15 minutes, but the map took me down an isolated road that seemed to lead to nowhere. I drove on anyway and soon realized it ended at a house on the water. Every light in the house was on, and as I got closer, I could hear music blasting from inside, even with my window closed. Strangely, there were only 2 cars parked in front. The property was wide open, and the front of the house faced the water, so the driveway curved around to the waterfront. As I walked up the front door, I noticed the house looked brand new. I rang the bell a few times because the music was so loud. When the door opened, I was completely off guard. 2 barely clothed women answered, one blonde and one brunette, both wearing huge flirty grins. The blonde grabbed the pizza, while the brunette handed me a 20. I was about to ask where everyone else was, but the brunette called me cute and asked for my number. I thought I was about to get extremely lucky. After I gave her my number, I was about to flirt my way inside, but the blonde immediately invited me in. Once inside, I picked up on a rather unpleasant odor almost immediately. There were literally no other people anywhere, but I didn't care much. The 2 women began to lead me upstairs. That's when things went wrong. I was literally on the 2nd step when a horrifying scream for help came from upstairs. I looked up, then at the 2 women. They looked at each other, and the blonde very clearly mouthed the word _ to the brunette. I didn't fully piece everything together in that instant, but I instinctively knew to run. I must have looked back 20 times before I could get the car, turn around, and drive back down the long driveway, looking through my rearview mirror as I drove away. I swear to you, at every single window of that house, there were heads peering out. Of course, I called the police on my way back to work and told them to check the place out. They did. An investigator called me back not even an hour later and said whoever had been there had abandoned the place. In fact, it was a brand new, just built vacant house that was for sale. There hadn't been any party there. That same night, I received a text saying, "We know where you work." That was enough for me to quit. Because I had mentioned a possible victim upstairs to the police, they came to my house and asked a series of questions about the people. I also changed my number after that. I wanted no possible links to the incident and, above all, to live with some peace of mind. I was on my last delivery of the night at Domino's, about 10 minutes from the shop. There was a note taped to the door. I read it after ringing the bell. It said, "To Pizza Guy, please let yourself in and leave the pizza in the upstairs bedroom. Money will be on the bed immediately." Red flags went off in my head. I called my boss and told him I didn't feel safe going in. He insisted I should just go inside. He didn't want the pizza coming back. The door was unlocked, so I let myself in. The house was average size, but the furniture looked a little worn. A small nightlight shaped like a candle on the wall gave just enough glow to see into the living room and up the stairs. Upstairs, there were no lights in any of the rooms, only another nightlight. More red flags. At the end of the narrow hallway were 2 doors, one open, one closed. The open door led into a dark room that I guessed was the bedroom. My hand was shaking. I was jumpy, listening for any sudden noise. I pushed the door fully open and pressed my hand to the wall, searching for a light switch. I flipped it. Nothing. The lights didn't work in that room. I moved slowly to the center of the room until my leg hit something soft. A bed. I set the pizza on the bed and started searching in the dark for money. Then I heard the faintest sound outside the room. I lifted my head, then hurried to find the cash. It felt like 2 bills. I hoped they were 10s. I tucked them into my pocket and left the room. Standing in the hallway, I noticed the other bedroom door was open. I could have sworn it had been shut before. My voice shook as I called out, "Your pizza's on the bed. Have a great day." There was no response. I leaned forward into the dark room to get a better look, but it was too dark. I reached my hand inside, feeling for a switch again, and something grabbed my arm with a painfully tight grip and tried to pull me in. I screamed and jabbed at the arm with my keys until I broke free, ran down the stairs, and got into my car. Nothing chased me out. No one followed as I drove away. I told my boss what had happened, and somehow I talked him into giving me a raise for being forced into that situation. He didn't want me to call the police. It wasn't my first thought in the moment, though looking back it probably would have been the right call. Not everything ended badly. My pay went from $7.50 to $8.50 an hour, but I still get chills thinking about that grip in the darkroom. I was never supposed to be the delivery guy when I worked at Gino's Pizzeria. But one night, the new kid called out sick on his second day, so I had to cover deliveries. It was a slow Tuesday night, so I didn't think it would be too bad. The only problem? I drove a manual '98 Ford Mustang, a total gas guzzler. Beating that thing around town for pizza deliveries was the last thing I wanted to do. The first 3 deliveries were normal, spread out over about 3 hours. Since the place closed at 9 p.m. on weekdays, I figured I'd only get 1, maybe 2 more deliveries before we shut down. Then the phone rang. The customer sounded like the textbook definition of a meth head. Her voice was raspy. She stuttered, lost track of her sentences, and paused for ages. At one point, there was a full 10-second gap between her saying, "Can I just get a regular pizza?" Even getting her address was painful. It sounded like she was yelling into the background, asking someone else what the address was. I couldn't believe I was actually about to meet these people. After she finally gave me the address, she hung up before I even told the price or the wait time. I told my chef, Mario, yes, really his name was Mario, 1 regular pie. 10 minutes later, I was on my way. Deliveries in our area were never short. We lived in the middle of nowhere, but the upside was usually bigger tips. After about a 10-minute drive down a long, dark gravel road through woods and scattered trailers, I finally reached their place. It was a trailer home. The lights inside were off, but I saw the orange glow of a fire out back. I could hear a woman shouting at someone. After grabbing the pizza, I shut my car door and noticed when the curtains shift. Someone was watching me. I wasn't sure whether to knock at the front door or go around back. Since I could clearly hear people out back, I decided to go that way. When I greeted them, they spun around fast. They looked exactly how you'd imagine, dirty, strung out like stereotypical trailer trash meth heads. The woman looked at the man, probably her husband, and asked, "What's he doing here?" He snapped back that she was the one who gave the address. They were standing suspiciously close together, like they were hiding something behind them. Honestly, I didn't want to know what. I asked if I should just go around front, but instead of answering, they whispered each other. Then the woman pointed at me and told me to wait there. She'd get the money. She went inside, leaving me standing there with a man who stared at me without blinking. 2 painfully long minutes later, the woman came back, handed the man some cash, and told him to count it. Then she whispered something to him. My nerves were through the roof. He started counting painfully slow. 5, 10, deliberately dragging it out. I kept my eyes on the woman, and that's when I saw her nodding toward the woods behind me. I turned my head just in time to see a massive guy stepping out from the trees, an axe in his hands. I panicked and flung the pizza box straight at him. Whether it slowed him down or he just didn't care, I didn't stick around to find out. I bolted to my car and sped off. I didn't even go back to work that night. When Mario texted me asking what happened, I told him everything. All he replied was, "Holy SHD, asterisk, that was the only night I ever had to deliver." Looking back, I'm just glad I made it home. So yeah, if you live in the suburbs or the city, being a pizza delivery guy might be fine. But if you live out in the middle of nowhere, maybe stick to a supermarket job instead.